On this AVNation special, we take a look at Tide Generator, the podcast created by AVIXA, also be available here on AVNation. All that and more next on this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special, previewing the Tide Generator. This is an AVNation special. My name is Tim Albright. What we're doing today is we're going to highlight Tide, the Tide Conference Technology Innovation Design Experience, created a podcast that AVIXA created. We're also going to be highlighting it here on AVNation. So with me to talk about it are two fantastic ladies. First and foremost, my buddy Kirsten Nelson. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And also with us is Annette Sandler. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, Tim.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. So not to be silly, but we're recording this the 1st of July, obviously 2020. Obviously, we all know what happened in March of this year. The entire world kind of shut down for a couple of months. Infocom turned into Infocom Connected. And in addition to that, what would have been the fourth iteration of Tide, you guys have been working on for 4 or 5 years now, obviously didn't happen in person. So Kirsten, for a second here, give folks kind of an overarching view of what Tide has been and what it's kind of evolved into.
Yeah, the Tide Conference is an interesting intersection of different types of creative minds and technologists. So it's a merging of the fields of AV integration design and the realization of experience, making things have a more emotional impact on people who are in the room with them. And that's across a lot of different enterprises, museums, and retail, and everything, all those glorious experiences we hear about now, these pop-ups, things like Art Tech House. It's people working within that space, the creative technologists who create those kind of beautiful, spectacular things, talking with an audience of integrators who are looking to add those types of elements to their practices. It's an exchange of ideas. And that was our focus for this year, was to make it a dialogue, a discussion that bridges those worlds in a new way too, so that people understand that we all create experiences as an industry, and if we can talk and reconnect with the passionate sides of our business, what makes those things feel spectacular, what makes things feel memorable, those are the topics we really wanted to focus on this year, because that is a common thread across everything we do, and it's really fun to talk about where that can go next.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one of the things that struck me the first time that I went to a Tide event, and Tide again, it would typically happen the day before Infocom, the in-person Infocom also happened at ISC. This was not about boxes, right? That's one of the things that at least the industry and folks that are involved in it get accused of sometimes, of being in love with boxes that we can put into racks. This is not that, right? This is more a conversation about the experience and how folks from both sides can kind of come together and create that.
That's absolutely right. It was very focused on the end result, on what the boxes can enable. As part of that conversation, we were definitely exploring what the latest technologies were that may enable a new experience. I think that's an important part of any creative practice. But the focus was on who was walking into that space that is being created, what sort of experience is the brand, is the building owner, is the city that's creating this beautiful pop-up festival looking to deliver to the audience, and how do the different disciplines come together to make the most robust experience that they can.
Kirsten, talk for a second about, you said the exchange of ideas. It's the exchange of ideas between multiple disciplines. I remember a number of years ago, Dave Labuscus, when he kind of unveiled one of the strategic plans at the time, was talking about folks that don't necessarily consider themselves in the industry, in the AV industry, but they certainly are. We're talking about creatives, people that are graphic artists that create these wonderful art pieces and public displays, but also folks that create digital signage. when it comes to, getting folks that are on what they may not consider themselves inside the industry, but getting them to acknowledge the fact that yes, they have an impact and their ideas are as valid to exchange as anybody else's.
Yeah, definitely my favorite place to look for ideas is the periphery, right? That's where I think we all get our best ideas. We even know that on the show floor, right? Look at those small booths at the edge to find the new ideas. And I think when we look just beyond what we consider the core sectors of our industry, we see that there's a lot of people using our technology in really interesting and compelling ways. And they are, as you mentioned, there's artists, there's people who create experiences, the beautiful experiences you see when you enter corporate lobbies with those beautiful digital landmarks. But then there's also a whole challenge that's been put out to all these brand agencies, as you mentioned, digital signage, digital out of home, whatever you want to call it. It was a mandate by some of the biggest brands in the world throwing money at the problem of how can I make something that feels different, new, remarkable. There's that. And then there's also, of course, the live events industry, which has always pulled from a variety of different types of people who are showing up, people who, the drone operators and people who understand how to make a VR rig work at a live concert. So yeah, it's kind of pulling together all the different people who are working in those fields with different tools, and finding out where they align in terms of design practices, ideas, and how they can feel inspired to create something new together.
Absolutely. And then let's kind of walk down the podcast that you guys have created so far and take a look at kind of each one very briefly here. But when you start taking a look and talking with these creatives and talking with these folks that are connecting everybody, what are some of the things, the overarching themes that came out of these conversations?
A lot of the overarching themes are things that we're addressing with the podcast actually, is memorable. What's memorable? It used to be, just until recently, as you mentioned, we're in the middle of a world rewriting right now. What is memorable? Well, that's that sort of the intangibles that are created by multisensory experiences. It's not just the big video stuff, but it's also how immersive audio can make you feel, how the other senses, even just things like vibration and air currents can be used in these experiences. So I think some of the overarching themes we end up hearing about are the built environment, how we can create bigger, bolder storytelling that incorporates the built environment and makes people feel at home within it, feel acknowledged, recognized, connected. And then from that aspect, that idea of connection and experience design is really huge. How people who are experiencing these designs also feel connected with other people within a space, which of course that idea right now is changing too, how you're going to connect with other humans in a space. But yeah, these are the themes: the built environment, storytelling, narratives, engagement, memorable. These are the things we hear about consistently. And these are things we hear about in every kind of AV practice. So.
Absolutely. Annette, when we're talking about this, and this is a similar question that I would have asked you actually a couple of months ago, who should go to Tide and who should attend it and who should get the most out of it. But Annette, who should listen to these podcasts and who should kind of dive in here and take notes, honestly?
I think that the cool thing about Tide Generator, when you listen to it, what Kirsten has created here is the new break room. This is the new water cooler chatter for creative technologists. The guests on the podcast, they're actually sharing their half-formed ideas. The whole world has changed around us and no one has an answer. And so they're doing what a lot of designers and creatives naturally do in their process, which is to share what's on their mind right now. And they put it out there. And then someone says, yes, that's really cool. And then I have this other idea. And all of a sudden, we're all building something new together. And anyone that is interested in building what the new world is going to look like together can get something out of this podcast. I would say within the AV space, especially for designers, there's a huge shift right now for how people are going to interact with physical spaces. That's a creative challenge, and it's also a problem that AV clients need to have solved. So when they have to solve for it to keep their businesses afloat, that's an opportunity for AV businesses as well. So I think there's something for integrators, there's something for designers, there's something for the folks that want to be on the cutting edge of new ideas, and they really want to feed their creativity. I think that cycle of continuous learning is something AVIXA is very good at stimulating, both through InfoComm and through our ongoing our ongoing programs year round. And tide generators definitely a new part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's telling the fact that it's a water cooler chatter, and I love the fact that you were able to listen to, like Annette said, half-formed ideas. Kirsten, as we wrap up here, what's one idea that you hope people pull away from this?
Yeah, I think the best idea that we've all been talking about for a long time is human connection. We've been talking about that for a long time in our industry, and it's something that comes up really often when we talk specifically about experience design and some of the more elaborate digital landmark designs that are created. How can we make people feel engaged and connected with content and with each other and with the built environment? It's a great problem to get to solve because there's so many elements we can pull in. And I think there's nothing better than the feeling that maybe we inspired someone or changed their day with something that was designed and built to really make them, to spark something new, to maybe get them to look up from their phone for a second and feel something new. I think that's something I'm excited to keep talking about.
Yeah, I like that. All right. Thank you both so much. Annette Sandler from AVIXA, thank you. How do people get a hold of you or AVIXA?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Annette in DC. That's ANNETTE, lots of double letters in there. You can also follow us at AVIXA. You can find more information from Tide at tideconference.com. And there we have all the podcasts posted, as well as some additional interviews with the podcast speakers.
All right, very good. And Ms. Nelson, thank you, ma'am. How do people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at Kirsten Nelson. That's my handle. And yeah, check out those podcasts there. You can also get the podcasts anywhere you get your podcasts. They're available on all the platforms.
All right, very good. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv, where you'll find this program and the Tide Generator podcast. You can check that out there as well. Also, while you're there, you can check out all of our coverage of InfoComm Connected and everything else, and several interviews with Kirsten over the years. So check all that out and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.